Hey everyone, I was just sitting here at the reloading bench and was kind of having a thought here, so I thought I'd stop and take a few minutes just to kind of voice my thoughts and express my opinions on some of the things that's going on in the country right now. You look around, you see all the things in the news with food shortages and processing plants burning down, who knows why. We all have our ideas, I assume. The Dutch farmers rebelling against their authorities over some different sanctions that are being put on them. The Amish farmer there in Pennsylvania, the government not allowing him to sell his livestock after he's processed it. Different things like that that's going on, and it just kind of got me to thinking that maybe we need to talk about things we can do to prepare for a food shortage and possibly even a power grid going down. Right offhand, the first thing that comes to mind is growing a garden. It's probably one of the easiest things that I could think of that you can do to prepare for a food shortage. Maybe a little bit late this year to get started, but you could definitely start procuring seed for next year. You could absolutely start working your ground up and getting your garden ready for next year. You can buy a used rototiller pretty cheap on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or things like that. You could even find someone locally that would be willing to bring a tractor in and at least turn over your new ground for you, so it would be easier to work when it comes time to plant it next year. Plant more than you need. So maybe if your garden doesn't produce as well as you'd hoped, if you plant more than you need, maybe you'll still get what you need. And if you have an abundance, there's always other people to be more than willing to take it off your hands. If you don't know how to garden, obviously there's all kinds of things online that you could use to learn. Take a drive around your area. Look for someone who has a nice looking garden, because I guarantee if you go up and ask them, someone who has a nice garden and take pride in their garden are going to be more than willing to come and help you out and give you any kind of tips and tricks that they have. It's just what people that enjoy gardens do. They love to help other people and share their knowledge and experiences. Second on my list is learning to preserve your food. Once you harvest all that food, you obviously can't eat it all right now. You need to learn how to preserve it. Pressure canning, one of those ways. Freezing, using a vacuum sealer, putting it away that way. You can dehydrate it, freeze dry it. Freeze drying is kind of expensive, but it is definitely a good way to make your harvest last for a long time. I mean, I've heard of some people getting up to 25 years shelf life out of freeze-dried foods that they've harvested. Hunting and fishing, being able to gather meat, protein. I understand there's a lot of people that like to be detached from where they get their meat. You know, it doesn't come from a grocery store. You can get it there, but that's not where it all started. If you would rather be detached from where your meat comes from, there are plenty of people that love to hunt and fish. Offer to help them out in some way or another. If you get really good at gardening, you have a abundance of crops, you can maybe do some trading. Learn to process your harvest if you do hunt and fish, especially your larger game animals such as a deer or something like that. If our food supply does run thin, there's going to be a lot of people that's looking to get the same thing accomplished that you are. They need their meat to be processed for them. If you can learn how to do that yourself, put it away yourself, that's going to help you out tremendously. Raise livestock if you have the property for it. There's a couple of multi-purpose animals that I can think of right offhand that would be really good. You know, cattle. If you have the property to support raising cattle and some grazing land for them, not only are they good for beef, you can get milk from them. It's going to require some effort on your part, obviously, and a lot of commitment. Chickens, don't just raise them for the meat. You get eggs from laying hens. On top of that, manure from, cattle, chickens, rabbits, things like that. Double duty there. Makes great fertilizer for your garden. Need to have a stockpile of grains, flour, things like that, rice, dried beans. I like to vacuum seal all of that stuff as well. It seems to keep longer. We all know what happens if you keep any kind of pasta or flour, things like that for very long. You can end up with bugs in it if, vacuum sealing seems to keep that from happening quite as often, even though most of the time the bugs or the eggs are actually in your pasta and flour and things like that when you buy it from the store, and it just takes that long for them to hatch, and you leave it in the back of a cabinet and there it is. You vacuum seal it, you eliminate the oxygen, kind of deters the circle of life there as far as the dried things are going. Food grade buckets full of water. If you can find food grade buckets, I've found them at Walmart, buckets and lids, 5-gallon buckets. Find some place to keep them in the winter time so they don't freeze if you live in an area where it gets that cold and stays that way. You need lots of water, a lot more than you think you would. You're not going to have the store to run to buy a bottle of pop or buy your coffee or whatever. You need to have potable water that you can use to drink and cook with and things like that, and you need lots of it. Whatever you think you need, double it. Other water just for bathing and hygiene, brushing your teeth, things like that. When the food shortages go down, people are probably not going to be working. Our power grid could go right down with it. Even if you live in town, you may not have water before it's all over with, because somewhere down the line it takes electricity to pump that water. If the power grid goes down, eventually you're going to run out of water. When the water tower uptown with your city name on it, when it's empty, you're done. There's not going to be any water. It takes electricity of some sort to pump that water to you. If people don't go to work, the generators may pick up for a while, but when the generators run out of fuel, the water's not being pumped. You need to have a stockpile of water. You can catch rainwater. I know a lot of places anymore, it's actually against the law to catch rainwater. Take that risk upon yourself. Possibly run your storage inside of a building if you have one, something like that. You can drive a well point, depending on how deep the water table is in your area. Drive a well point. Sometimes you can go down 15, 20 feet, something like that. Put some pipe on top of it, put a pitcher pump. You can get some water that way. We're going back to 100 years ago, before we had the electric pumps and things like that. This is how people lived. Discuss these things with friends, find like-minded people that you can trust. Hopefully they have skills that complement yours. If you're a good gardener, maybe they're a good hunter, good at preserving food, things like that. Maybe they've got more ground, they don't know how to garden. Maybe you can garden on their property and help them garden, you know, helping one another out all around. Bartering. It could be a life and death situation real easy. These farmers these days, they don't have it easy. Their inputs that go into these fields, the price of fuel, fertilizer, things like that, hard to get, and some of it's tripled or more in price since last year. Don't use the store shelves as a gauge as far as what the food supply is looking like, because what you're seeing on the shelves right now was grown last year. Next year is going to get worse. Look around, see how many fields you see around you that are bare, or damage. We've had some crazy weather where I live. Just rain, and then a drought, and wind. Wind has been horrible. With all the detrimental issues going on in the world today, we need to go back to the days when we were sitting on the porch snapping beans with Grandma. If you have some of these food preservation skills, teach them to your kids, your grandkids. This is a skill that is going away with our older generation, because a lot of people my age, kids, the generations under me, they just don't care to learn that kind of stuff. And one of these days we're going to need it. So teach your kids, teach your grandkids how to grow food, how to conserve food, preserve it, put it away for a rainy day, how to be frugal. This society and lifestyle is just kind of built on convenience and immediate gratification, and sometimes it's almost sickening to look around and see how much people take for granted. I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. I can remember some of the best times in my life were, when I was a kid, learning how to garden with my grandpa, learning how to cook and can with Mom and Grandma. When I was a youngster, learning how to hunt with my dad, things like that. It's, these are rewarding times. Never let an opportunity go to waste. Love one another and be kind, and thank the good Lord every day for everything that you've been given. Don't take it for granted. I know there's so many things that you don't realize, but there are blessings upon blessings every day, and do your best to recognize that and thank the man upstairs for it. Until next time, like and subscribe, and we'll have another video up for you shortly. Thank you. Bye.